We see the extraordinary, as you can imagine, on a daily basis, but we can see that resonating through our business. So we've had 110% uplift in brands coming to us saying we want to do record breaking, but it has to have a purpose. So, you know, you might do it for fun, you might do it for a product launch, but they want it to have a purpose that really means something to their customers. So that's driving right through our business at the moment in terms of, you know, 44% of the records that we've done in the last 3 months are all about purpose driven. And so that's actually shifted, you know, the kind of skills that we also need within our company to work with that and work with those brands. So it's a very interesting sort of dilemma and progression for us.
Yeah, it sort of makes sense, right? So if you look at successful startups, I mean, let's just take the direct-to-consumer space. Generally, to your point, they're succeeding not only because their products are good, but because it means something to their target audience. They're building a community around that product, the values, and ultimately the purpose corresponds to what that community kind of wanted. But equally, at the bigger brand side of things, you mentioned Unilever earlier, when you're building out a brand house or a brand strategy, whatever that might be, you know, show me any brand in the last 4 years that has not had some kind of, you know, this is our mission, or this is our purpose, or something akin to that, right at the centre of its brand planning process. You know, I'll eat my hat. It's absolutely there, and it enables, I think, very interesting purpose-driven activities such as the ones you're talking about.
Yeah, I think when it's interesting when it moves into the kind of overt brand advertising space, because, you know, almost every corp will have some kind of CSR. You know, they will be involved in philanthropic programs, and they won't necessarily know how to get that out to people. When that moves into kind of out of house and proper brand ads, I think that's interesting. I mean, it depends what that subject is. If you're picking something that's polarizing, that's very interesting, potentially risky. But, you know, HSBC is another example. They've come out, and whilst the explanation is that that's not a kind of anti-Brexit campaign, to anybody watching that, there's a very strong message of unity around the country and around Europe. What that means for HSBC, I don't know, but it's, you know, when you pick a subject that's quite so polarizing, then that also, you know, there's a question of what type of brand are you. Some brands want to be loved and hated because they don't want to sit in that position in the middle where nobody really cares. But, you know, if you're a, you know, FMCG, then you want to hit as many people as possible, and the risk of kind of polarizing that the wrong way, I think, is very real.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right there. I think one of the things you all touched on there is that resonation with the audience, right? Are we in a space now where you think that these brands that do have the CSR put in inherently into their campaigns, where they do have purposefulness, are we actually seeing brands, consumers making their choices, their purchase choices based on that far more than, say, price or style or heritage? Are we starting to see that purposefulness actually drive through to the bottom line, do we think?
I mean, I think we are. I'm jumping in, and not that we particularly have seen this in terms of book publishing. But if you look at a company like Lad Bible, for example, that is, if you've seen the Trash Aisles campaign, I assume, and they've actually, I feel as if they've shifted their entire company towards, you know, getting behind the war on plastics, and their perception amongst that audience has changed dramatically, I think. I'm saying but by putting together a wonderful campaign that's award-winning across, whether it's Festival of Media or Cannes Lions, but it's made people think differently about Lad Bible in actually producing that piece of work. I just think that's very interesting.
And I think if you look at a brand like Dove, which is possibly has inspired the Gillette campaign in some way, because it's really had a long-term commitment to changing the perceptions of women's bodies and their, you know, the products they use and why they use them, and the way women feel about their bodies. It's, you know, and it's very relatable. I think using the personal, as Jim says, you know, it's one of those risky strategies. But if it's as relatable as that, then it's hard to ignore, and it starts a lot of conversations.
I think the products, you know, the products still have to be good, and people will be selfish in the reasons which they use them. I mean, we talk with a lot of clients, and electric cars, for example, is a kind of key topic, especially in 2019 and going forward. But, you know, there is a view that people are concerned about the environment, and that will drive the switch to electrification. But actually there's a lot of research that says people just want to know whether it'll be cheaper, and if it's cheaper then they'll switch.
And there's something about, because there are some products that I think are going to struggle to truly have any actual claim on owning a particular purpose. So I don't know, but a flake of breakfast cereal cannot own female empowerment, which is sort of where brands and marketing can come in, and they try to stretch the impact that you can have on your target audiences beyond the product itself. And whether that's then a explicit choice that a consumer's making at the cereal aisle in the supermarket, or just something that kind of gets more just more subtly influences people's decision making, I think it's pretty unquestionable. I mean, that's sort of why, to some extent, why the industry exists.